what's happening, everybody? I am Tommy, and you are on the Love Boat. The Love Boat. And it's a beautiful morning, and I'm glad you guys are here. Jane Aldrich, Sandy Wendy, what's happening? Archie's mom's here. Ashley G, KM, Kristen Melinda, Super Wrench. Jane Aldrich, how are ya? Ann with an E, good to have you. Valerie Nagy, good to see you. That is a zoomy cat behind me if you're wondering what that is. Grace Twinkle Toes, what's happening? I'm glad that you are here. Sandy Wendy, did I say hello to you already? I'm slipping, folks. It's the old age thing. Barbara Wade is here. Let's see, am I missing anybody? If I'm Roberta, there you are. If I'm missing anybody, I apologize in advance. There's Chase the Heat, South America. That's the Johnny Scoville. Man's a legend, an absolute legend. You know, a quick Johnny Scoville story. Johnny suffers from sleep paralysis. I don't know how much you guys know about sleep paralysis, but I am a sufferer. Brock Bandy, good to see you. Yesterday was a good day, people. Boy, was it a good day. Johnny suffers from sleep paralysis. I, too, suffer from sleep paralysis. And for years, because of the amount of ecstasy that I did back in the day, I believed I was actually waking up paralyzed. I truthfully and honestly believed that I was waking up in the morning with the inability to move. It's terrifying. And I would lay in bed, not able to move my body. And the thing that really propelled this for me in the dome mentally was that they had done a special on ecstasy. And it was like 60 Minutes, or it was one of those. And they were talking about how it messes with the CSF, cerebral spinal fluid. And that if you did it long enough, it could actually cause paralysis. So when I'm waking up in the morning and I can't move, I mean, I used to do X like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all the time. Sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like we did a bunch of it. And I was convinced that I was paralyzed, and I was going to a doctor and talking to them. And it was not tremendously well understood back in the day. And the first doctor I went to was putting me through tests on my spine and doing all of this stuff. And I went to a specialist. And when I got to the specialist, he said, I don't know why they sent you to me. He said, you need to, no, X does not cause sleep paralysis, Ashley G. But ecstasy long enough can actually cause some problems with if you do mass amounts of it, it messes with the amount of cerebral spinal fluid in the body. And it was one of those things that they tell kids to scare the hell out of them, a dishonesty campaign that they do to keep people from doing drugs. But it got in my head, and I started to believe that I was paralyzed. Hey, Cindy G, I'm glad you are here. So I got to a specialist, and as soon as I walked in, he goes, this happens to you in the morning? I said, yeah. He goes, you're dreaming. And I said, I beg your pardon? He said, it's not real. It's a dream. And I said, I don't think so. And he said, no, this is a phenomenon. It's called sleep paralysis. You need to talk to a psychiatrist, not an MD. So I went and talked to a shrink, and the shrink said to me, absolutely, this is something that's happening in your brain. It's happening during sleep. And I said, you don't understand. I'm awake. He said, you think you're awake. Here's the problem with sleep paralysis. If that's all it ever did, it would suck. But once sleep paralysis becomes a part of your life, one of the other things that you get is nightmares with false endings. And I've talked about this on the Lifeboat a lot because I went through it for weeks a couple of years ago. If you've been here a long time, you'll remember this went on literally for weeks. What is on these glasses? And what would happen is I would have a nightmare, and you know, there would be something demonic looking, something from a nightmare, you know, or a horror film. Your cat's going to eat a bug. And I would wake up and go, oh, thank God it's over, right? And then the wall would open up and something else would come through it. And I mean, I knew I was awake. I had gotten up. I was out of bed. I'd go into the bathroom and splash water on my face. And I'd look in the mirror and something would be coming up behind me. And you keep waking up within the dream thinking that you're awake. Last night, Johnny Scoville had a horrible case of nightmares, sleep paralysis nightmares, where he thought he was awake and he wasn't. And he had so many false endings that he got up and went to the kitchen, but didn't think he was awake. Like he thought it was still part of the dream, and he's waiting for a monster to jump out of the refrigerator. It was about 1:40. I came down the hall, and it's funny now because it's the next day, but I came down the hall and I said, hey, man, you all right? And he had a look on his face like I haven't seen since he was probably 14 years old, 13 years old. And I gave him a hug, and he said to me, are you really here? It was terrible, folks. It really was. If we can get some ones in the chat for Johnny. Honestly, this is And I'm not going to get weird on you. We're not going to sing Kumbaya. I promised it. Valerie says, I think I experienced it once. Is that possible? I really thought I was paralyzed. No, you absolutely experienced it once. And not everybody gets it all of the time. There are people who will experience it once in a lifetime. I spent so much time journaling about this. I spent so much time talking to professionals about this, talking to therapists about this, that when I get sleep paralysis now, I'll laugh in my dream. I'm not kidding. Even if it's one of the nightmare dreams, I'll go, this isn't real. This isn't real. But that takes a really long time to get to. And before I got to that, it was nightmarish. It's probably a poor use of the term. But the whole process literally was destroying me. I had bags underneath my eyes. I was afraid to go to sleep. And it was actually a person on the boat. They're no longer here. They left, not for the normal reasons that people leave the lifeboat. They got sober. And they come back every once in a while. They pop in the chat and stay still sober, and then they leave. They do local meetings because they want to help people get sober, kind of like what we're doing with the rehab place. They're doing the 12th step and they're living it. Is that lucid dreaming? It is a form of lucid dreaming, to be sure. Very often you can feel breath on your neck. That's something that a lot of people will talk about. Because of how real this is, and because of the fact that there are usually some serious nightmare stuff involved, there are people who call it spiritual attacks, and they wholeheartedly believe that. Now, I don't know. I really don't. But I will tell you this. It doesn't seem to happen when I'm being a dirtbag. It doesn't seem to happen to me ever when I'm not living a good life. When I'm doing things the way that I'm supposed to be doing is when I tend to have these nightmares. And I was also trying to explain that to Johnny Scoville last night. If you want to think of it in terms of spiritual warfare, you can. If you don't believe in a God, you can think about it in these terms. Whether you believe in a God or not, there is absolutely a yin and a yang to everything on this planet, right? That's actually scientific, believe it or not, right? The antimatter kind of proved that there is an opposite to everything, right? Light has dark, heat has cold. There is good on this planet, right? Now, whether you think that good comes from whatever, it doesn't much matter. But there is good on this planet, and there is bad on this planet, right? Look at the big red button. There is content on this channel that is uplifting and beautiful, and there is content on this channel that shouldn't be. I mean, on this platform that shouldn't be made. Just shouldn't. You know, there are people that celebrate the grossest things in the world. I touched last night on a guy named Johnny Somali. I'm hoping, it's a terrible thing to say, but I absolutely am hoping that the South Korean government is going to put him in prison for 5 to 10 years. That's what he's facing. He's actually facing 30, but realistically, they're going to drop a lot of those charges. It's fatal variance. They've stacked a bunch of things that are the same, like we do in the United States. Possession with the intent to distribute, drug trafficking. They're all the same charges. They keep stacking them so that when you go into court, they can go, well, if you plead guilty to this, we'll drop the other 3. It's a trick of the trade, so to speak. But this guy, Johnny Somali, went over to South Korea. During the war between North and South Korea, there were women that were captured and put into camps. Those camps were sex camps. These women were forced to sleep, in some cases, with 100 soldiers a day. They were rape camps, is what they were. And there is a statue, a beautiful statue of a woman in a seated position that is there to honor those women that endured that. He did a lap dance on it, right? Put his hand up its dress and then sniffed his fingers. It was the grossest thing you've ever seen in your life. It would have made you vomit in your mouth. And he did this live streaming while people cheered him on and threw super chats at him. This is a very popular genre right now on YouTube. There is a good and there is a bad. Make no mistake. And I'm not exactly sure how it all works. I know that when I close my eyes for the last time, I will have a much better understanding of it. But what I can tell you is this. When you're doing things wrong, not a lot of people push up against you. But when you start doing things that are intended to leave the earth a better place than you found it, people pop out of the woodwork to push against you. But this is one of the rare occurrences where I'm getting a lot of flack. You know, we're losing a lot of subscribers and I'm getting a lot of flack. I'm not going to talk about the flack because for the last 2.5 or 3 years, if I'm mentioned in a video, 9 out of 10 of it is just trying to destroy me. The last 5 mentions that people have mentioned to me in videos have been positive. And there are people who are sharing the videos that we're making. This is another phenomenon that doesn't happen very often to me. But people are sharing the videos that we're making. There are people saying, hey, you got to see this. That's beautiful. It really is. The number of people that have sent emails saying, I want to adopt one of the boys in that program. We're going to come up with a way that you can do that has nothing to do with us. So you can do it directly and we don't have to hear about, grifting and all that stuff. And to be honest, there's also, hey, Lisa Trimble, good to see you. There's also a business component to this. Even if I was the most trusted man on planet Earth, and I'm not, but if I was the most trusted man on planet Earth, and you guys donated $4,000 to help these guys and their mission, helping to feed them or do whatever, I would pay tax on that. YouTube would take 30%. I would pay tax, and then I would donate it. And that's probably not the best scenario. There's a way that we can eliminate all of that and have you guys work directly with them. We're going to set that up. We haven't figured out how yet. There's a couple of people a lot smarter than me that watch The Lifeboat who are going to help set that up. Smarter in that area is what I mean. I'm not being self-deprecating, but we have some people that watch the boat that are fiscally minded individuals who have legal training and such things. And we're going to set this up in such a way for that if you want to sort of adopt, you've seen things on TV where you can adopt a person in another country. This would be the ability to adopt one of these guys. Some of them have no family, and that's why they eat rice every day of the week, because the food is donated. If there is a parent for these kids, there are people there whose parents are paying into the rehabilitation center to help buy food for them and other things. Doesn't mean that guy eats better, because they don't want that kind of, but it helps support. And if they get 4 parents that are doing that, everybody eats better, kind of a thing. So some of these people that don't have anyone, we're going to put up some kind of an adoption for. The gentleman that we've been calling Mac is off the paper for that. That man's a brother of mine. And from now until he's living on the street with his own job and his own family, I'm going to do what I can to support him. And my brother feels the same way. My daughter's ex had sleep paralysis, and I've never heard such a guttural sound come from a human being. Very often, it's funny that you say that, and I don't mean funny, haha, but it's odd that you say that. Grace Twinkle Toes. Oftentimes, people that suffer from this perpetually, it happens to them all the time, they will scream to try to get out of it. I do this at the end of mine, because going is usually how I can break out of it. And the funny thing is, when I was at my worst with sleep paralysis, there was somebody that was living with me at the time, and we were sleeping in the same bed. It was a wife. She said only once was that noise ever audible. Now, I heard it at the end of every one of those dreams. I would scream in my head, and I thought I was screaming in real life. I thought that was, and usually I would sit up in bed screaming. But in the real world, I was just coming to. Once I actually did sit up in bed and scream. Now, on the other side of that, Sandy Wandy says, I do that. On the flip side of that, I do scream in dreams a lot, but it's 9 out of 10 times it's because of that incident that I've done shows on from Lewisburg. When that dream happens, I tend to wake up in a cold sweat screaming. And it used to happen a lot. Praying for all of them and for your brother. Thank you, Cindy G. I mean that. Thank you. Kimberly says, me too. Sleep paralysis for me is terrifying. It is. So I'm asking everybody to put some thoughts and prayers in for Johnny Scoville, especially about evening time. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. This is becoming a thing. In fact, not last night, but the night before is probably the first night that he hasn't experienced this in probably a week. Am I in the ballpark of that? Yeah. It's been fairly consistent for about the last 7 days. Odd, huh?
One of the last 2 were really bad.
Yeah, we went to rehab 8 days ago, right? Is when we started going to rehab. And right around that time, he started getting sleep paralysis dreams. Probably a coincidence, eh? There's good, there's bad, and I promise you, if you choose to be on the good side of that. Caroline, good to see you. You're not late. I have been stalling until you got here. We aren't even underway. I promise. We've been talking about dreams and whatnot. We're going to get into the meat of it. I want to tell you guys a quick story, though, about last night. Last night when we were live, I talked to a boy, a young man, a couple of days ago in the United States, and he kind of restored my faith in in the developed nation, right? Because as you know, Honeybee, good to see you. As I've said, I feel like there's a lack of respect. These kids just don't treat elders the right way. They don't, their attitudes tend to suck. And I know that's generalization and those aren't a good thing, but it is a fairly solid generalization, unfortunately. But talking to this young man kind of restored my faith because he was just such a great human being. He really was. As I'm telling you this story, that man entered the chat for the first time ever. It's a true story. He had been invited to come to the Love Boat for about 3 years and has never pulled the trigger. He's in recovery, but he's never showed up at it. And there's been a person that's just been doggedly inviting them forever. And then one day he said, hey, you know what? Tommy's available. Would you be willing to talk to him? And this young man got on the phone with me. We talked for an hour and 20 minutes. He's a great, great young man. I have very high hopes for this guy. But he shows up in the chat while I'm talking about him. The odds of that, again, I've done 5,000 shows or something like that. I've done a lot of shows. I've talked about him in one of them, and he happened to show up while I was talking about him. When you're in line, and you can call it God if it makes you comfortable. If it makes you uncomfortable, call it whatever you want. But when you're doing the right thing, it's funny how things just sort of open up for you. Audra in Denver, I am so glad you're here, and I hope that you're having a good morning. I am going to talk this morning about having good mornings. Whine a little bit more, stopping in to say hi, Tommy and crew. Busy moving couches around because I finally sold one of them. Man, I wish we had bought it. We have to buy, we need a new couch. But anyway, that explains why my spidey senses were going off last night, Barbara. Wait, you know what? And I probably got a crap-eating grin on my face because as I'm talking about him, while I was having that conversation, Johnny Scoville handed me a letter and said, he just came in the chat. I'm glad that you're better now, Audra. I am too. You know, I really am. I am better too. And do you know why I am? This is important. Do you know why I am? The easy answer is you went back to rehab, right? That's a solid answer. If you watched last night's show, and all of you did, by the way, I don't think there's anybody that missed that show. The numbers on it were really good. The number of thumbs up, by the way, proves that you can all do this. The engagement rate on that video is higher than I've ever had. That's a true story. That engagement rate was unbelievable. Everybody hit the thumbs up. Well, by everybody, I mean way over 10%. And in this line of work, that's unheard of. That's okay, Roberta, you're here just in time. The obvious answer would be, I just went to this rehab, right? And things have really turned around because of that. I got a chance to remind myself why I do this, right? And then I talked to this young man in America, and that again reminded me why I do this. I got way off path, and all of these are logical answers to the question, why am I in the mindset that I'm in? But you know what? None of those are right. Truthfully, if I went back and I started reading my journal because I wanted to see where this paradigm shift happened, because it had to have happened when I hugged this kid. That had to be that life-changing moment. But the truth of the fact is, my journal entries started being ridiculously positive 4 days before that. Now, we could chalk that up to being very excited about going to the rehab center, but here's the deal. Do you know how many times we thought we were going to the rehab center and didn't? I wasn't wholeheartedly sold on the fact that we would be there that day. I understand why it was hard to get in. I understand why the process took as long as it did. They are in. I love that. You are my rehab. I love that. I love that. I never let myself need, but I need you guys. You know something? It's okay to need. You know, it's not okay to need a fix, but it's okay to need people. Connection really is the opposite of addiction. And it is the opposite of everything else that ails this world. Connection heals everything. And I'm so glad that you said that, Audrey. I really am. So I understand why it was hard to get in there. They have to be careful. There are people that don't want that to prosper. In fact, there are people that want everybody there to go away. So it's hidden in the middle of nowhere, and it's very security minded. There's a big old gate. It's locked at all times. But no, that's not what did it. It wasn't the excitement of going there because I wasn't even sure that I was going to be going there. Archie's mom says, I'm so glad you're talking about sleep paralysis. When it first happened to me, it was scary and I didn't know how to talk about it. So bringing it up, awareness is awesome. Well, you know what? I got a deal for you. Hold on. Johnny Scoville, why don't you talk about sleep paralysis? He says he's going to. Don't miss Chase to Heat South America. He's going to be going after me. So do catch it. I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about. But nevertheless, 4 days before I went there, there was a paradigm shift in all of my writing. And it made me scratch my bald head. I started going back and looking and saying, what happened that all of a sudden I became happy? What happened that all of a sudden I became more animated? I became more fired up to do what I do. It had to be something that one of you did, right? It has to be. It has to be something that it doesn't. There doesn't have to be an answer of a catalyst that went boom and exploded. Because the truth of the matter is, I chose to be happy on that 4th day. I'm not kidding. I'm looking at the journal going, I don't get it. There's got to be something here. And then I realized that I have a smaller journal that I don't write in as often as I should. It's my gratitude journal. And I went back and I started looking at the gratitude journal. And sometimes I'll miss 4 days of that. Sometimes I'll miss 5 days of that. But the previous 4 days, to me feeling good, I was writing in that gratitude journal every single day. And in that gratitude journal, I did some other really odd things. And I know that people are going to call me on this because I said I was never going to do this again. But it's kind of important for the story. I have been praying for the people that do not like me, right? I've been doing this for a while. 4 days ago, I started to do it by name, as opposed to just randomly saying, and, you know, with all of those people out there that can't stand me, you know, do something good. I'm praying for them by name. And I'll tell you something. It kind of feels like holding hands with a police officer. You know what I mean? Like kissing a cop. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. It really is. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. Nothing that I do in my life that's worth a crap ever started out comfortable. Honestly. I work out. My brother works out. We do yoga. We do a lot of things. Really uncomfortable when you start. It's not a lot of fun. Getting up on stage and talking to people the first time, really uncomfortable. Right? All of the things in my life that define who I am, the positive things, all of them were really uncomfortable. To say out loud, I absolutely am a believer in God. And if you want to haul for that, I understand. But I was afraid to talk about my faith, not because I'm ashamed of it, because I am not. I'm proud of it. My fear has always been that in the first 4 days of trying to quit any substance, if you talk to me about God, I was not ready to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. And there are so many people that approach faith in God in different ways. I don't want to step on anybody. The last thing in the world I want to do is push someone away from the love boat because of how I approach faith. That's one of the scariest things in the world for me. But recently, I began to pray specifically about that I would have the ability to share things that are important to me without offending anybody in the process. I don't want to run anybody off, but I'm doing a massive disservice if I don't say some things that are very important. For instance, heroin addiction, right? If you have put a needle in your arm to plunge the plunger down and force the morphine molecule directly into your vein, and you're a woman, 99 out of 100 of them will die in active addiction. That's a real statistic. 99 out of 100. If you're a man, 98 out of 100. Sounds very close. It means you're twice as, you're 2 times more likely if you're a woman. It's actually a scary statistic. But if those people are believers in God, that number goes from 1 to 2 up to 20. Now, that doesn't prove he's out there. You can't prove that he's out there. You can't. But what it does prove is that people that believe in something bigger than themselves tend to be more successful in things that are overwhelming and seem to not have an answer. And I'll say this, and then I promise I'm done with it. But one of the most fascinating things that I've seen in the last couple of years is the smartest people on planet Earth who believe that we're in a computer simulation. Elon Musk believes this is a computer program. We're in the Matrix. And he's not a dumb guy. He's a super smart guy. There's a guy named Kurzweil, very, very intelligent. His father was a billionaire. He's blowing tons of cash trying to turn people into half computers. This kind of a crazy anyway. But very intelligent dude. Also believes we're living in the Matrix. Why is that? because science is proving intelligent design, right? We used to talk about this in high school, I'm sure, or college. I'm sure you guys kind of remember this debate. Intelligent design. The Fibonacci sequence. I'm not a math guy, but the Fibonacci sequence, if you take numbers and you add the two numbers together, they equal the third number, then add the next two numbers and they're going to equal the next one. Like 1 + 2 = 3, 2 + 3 = 5, whatever. It's a Fibonacci sequence. And it also looks like a nautilus, like anything that kind of turns. And it's fascinating because that number used to come up in Egypt, in the pyramids, everywhere. Fibonacci sequences tend to show up everywhere. Turns out they show up in nature. Berries, fruit, anything alive has this same kind of a sequence built into it. And people like Elon Musk have come across this and said, holy crap, there's intelligent design. We must be in a computer program. Blows my mind. It's like the breadcrumbs are laid out for the smartest people in the world, and they pick all of this stuff up, and their conclusion is so ridiculous. It's like the scientist who takes the frog and he removes one leg of the frog and says, frog, jump, and the frog does. And he cuts off another leg and he says, frog, jump, and the frog does. And he cuts off the third one. Finally, he has removed all of the legs of the frog and he yells, frog, jump. And obviously the frog does not. He stays there. He says, frog, jump. Frog doesn't move. His conclusion is if you remove all 4 legs of a frog, it becomes death. Sometimes the evidence is right there in front of you, but you just can't seem to put it together. And I think that for people who are really intelligent, believing that there is a grand design, right, is something that's a little bit too difficult to wrap their brain around. And I get that. I have to ask God to give me the willingness to pray for people I'm angry with or who hate me. You know what? It's not an easy thing to do. But nothing in this life that is worth anything is easy. Such a cliche, but it's the truth. And I'll tell you something. I'm struggling with that right now in different ways as well. There are people in my life who I am struggling to speak to, who I need to speak to. There are people in my life that, because of explosions that have happened in my life, I've been able to put things back together with a lot of people so that we can communicate in, not like we did, but we can communicate with one another. And there are people that, because of either guilt or a whole host of other emotions, I can't yet reach out to. And it's a very frustrating thing for me because, well, I'm a damn guru, right? Jackwagon. No, but I read a lot of books and I do a lot of journaling. I ought to be able to handle this. And it's frustrating as hell to me. So I know what you're feeling, Lisa Trimble. And I do believe that that asking a higher power to give you strength for things like that is an important deal. But back to my happiness. I started to journal about things in my life that were fantastic. And when I start to journal about things in my life that are fantastic, I don't journal or I don't think or I don't become preoccupied with the things in my life that are crappy. It's like the joke that I always used to say, there are people on planet Earth. And if you said to them, you 2 people, right, are getting $1 million in cash, the Love Boat is hooking you up, and I gave it to you, right? And one person got it in 20s and the other got it in hundreds. They would say, that person only has to carry 28 pounds worth of cash out of here. I got 150. What's that all about, right? What's the deal? There are people on this planet that no matter what you do for them, right, they're going to see that silver lining. They're not. They're going to see the gray of the cloud. And one of the most important things that we can do as humans is condition ourselves to be happy. Because if you think happy is going to go at the front door, hey, Tommy, it's Happy. How you been? I'm going to stick around for the next 6 to 7 months. Just wanted to make things good around here. It doesn't happen like that. It's not magic that you see people and you go, that person's happy. We're idiots as human beings. So when that person walks away, we go, boy, they got it made. They don't have a problem in their life. They got every problem you got. Trust and believe. Every problem you got. And they probably have a host of them that you don't even know about. I believe in something, not sure what, but I'm not religious. I can't do the politics or the judgment from Oklahoma, if that gives a clue. Religion only hurts me. I tell you what, and I promise I'm not trying to turn this into a religious channel, but I think it's important because it's a part of most people's sobriety one way or the other, and it certainly is a part of people's happiness. My religion, personally, I believe in a guy that got nailed to a cross, got up 3 days later. That guy at the age of 13 trashed a church, went in there, kicked tables over, trashed the place. God, no matter which one you believe in, he created peace and happiness. Man created religion. I've not have a lot of faith in anything that man creates. So I'm not a fan of religion, and I don't think God was. He certainly didn't create it, right? But there are funny things that run through every religion. If you look at Buddhism, right? Buddhism and Christianity have nothing to do with one another. They're kind of polar opposites, right? Except there are 3 Buddhas, right? What is it? It's the Amitabha Buddha, the Bodhisattva Buddha, and then I can't remember the third, but there are 3 Buddhas, right? Every religion seems to come back to the 3. 3 is a number that keeps coming up in all of them. And there are people that believe that all paths lead to the same place. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I know what works in my life, right? And the thing that really works for me and the thing that is important to me is that my faith is based on forgiveness. And I have done more people dirty than any of you. I promise. That's an award I can definitely carry around. So it is a very important thing for me. Hello, Renee Rainbow. I sure do love this content. Well, I love it too. And I love that you guys are here. This is one of those situations that for me, forgiveness is the basis of my life. You people are here in spite of the fact that I'm a convicted felon who went to federal prison for 13 years, right? You will accept the things that I talk about, and you will journal, and you will do things to try to make your life better. And you're not talking to a guru, no matter what anybody says. You're talking to a guy that has screwed up more than anybody on planet Earth. There are many similarities between Christians and Buddhism. There's many similarities between anybody who is looking at something greater than themselves. I don't have a problem with people that choose not to believe in anything. But make no mistake, if you say, I'm an atheist, I believe in nothing, you have stronger faith than anybody I've ever met. The faith just happens to be in yourself and your ability to know enough to leave this planet with the belief that there's nothing there and you're willing to bet eternity on it. That's a hell of a lot of faith, right? That's a hell of a lot of faith. However, judge me for this if you'd like, but I've done plenty of time in prison. And if you go into a restaurant, you don't see a lot of people praying before the meal. You go into prison and half of the people in there are praying because there aren't any atheists in foxholes. When hand grenades start flying, people look for something greater than themselves for protection, for peace, right? And they do that because it works. And then they get on the street and they forget about it and they trade God in for a bag of meth, or they trade God in for a bag of heroin. I want people to believe in something greater than themselves because statistically speaking, what it does for your ability to get sober is through the roof. But you don't have to believe what I believe. And this pisses people off when I say it. But I'm terrified, honestly, if you are the arbiter of everything in your life, meaning there's nobody that you're ever going to answer to other than yourself. If that were me, I would have killed people. I'm sorry, I would have. I was as depraved an individual as there was on earth. The only reason that the crimes that I did stopped where they stopped was because I did believe at some point, no matter how screwed up I was on this planet, I was going to have to answer for the things that I did. I knew I was out of control, but if I was the only person that I had to answer to, if I didn't believe that there was somebody that created me, I promise you I'd have a gun and I'd be out taking people out. You cut me off in traffic, I'd kill you. For real. You said something that bothered me, I'd kill you. And I'm not saying that's everybody on planet Earth. I'm not. I believe, and I always will, that everybody on this planet is born with a God-shaped void in their soul. If you don't fill it with God, you're going to fill it with something. When I didn't fill mine with God, I filled it with heroin. That's what worked for me. It's working a lot better with God. And I'll tell you something. I say shit way more than I ought to. And I drop F-bombs more than I ought to. And I say some really off-color stuff every once in a while, right? And I mean, not the kind of stuff that, like, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, I'm not homophobic, I'm none of those things. But I will crack some jokes that you probably wouldn't want your mom to hear. I'm not trying to impress anybody with who I am. I promise you I'm not. I'm trying to impress me. I'm trying to impress the guy that I follow, right? And I would like Q to be proud of me. My dad's not here anymore, right? But I would like Q to be proud of me. I do read religious writers independently, so I feel I can get the most out of it on my own. You know what happened to me? This was kind of an odd experience, but when I got sober, and Q was the one that really kind of pushed me into, what do you believe? I said, what do you believe? He said, none of your business. And I said, then why do you want to know what I believe? He goes, I don't need to know what you believe, but you need to know what you believe. And I said, this is what I believe. He said, why? I said, I don't understand the question. He said, why did you pick that religion? And the answer had to be, well, I was born into that religion. So I read every religious text I could get my hands on. And I promise you, this pissed off people who have the same faith as me. They thought that by me reading these other things, that I was blaspheming and doing all of this stuff. I wanted to know that this was my choice. Had I looked at every other one, maybe there was one that was going to speak to me in a way that this didn't. So I read all of them. I read the Book of Mormon. I read everything I could get my hands on. I read the Talmud. I read boy, I'm brain dead. I read the Book of the Dead. I read the Quran. Any book that they would let me get. The exception to that, I did not read the Satanic Bible. And for two reasons. Number one, I knew the jackass that wrote it. And literally on his, not personally, but I mean, I had studied the jackass that wrote it. And on his deathbed, he said, it was a living. Like he just did it to make cash. It's not something he believed or anything else. And I have wholeheartedly always in my entire life realized that there was a good and a bad, right? You know what, Cindy G? No apologies. Everybody has mornings they wake up a little foggy. Yesterday I wasn't so fantastic. This is where we find ourselves, hopefully, seeking something. And after reading every one of the religious texts except the Satanic Bible, because I do believe in the good and the evil, and they, to your own self, right? The only law is that you be true to yourself. I want no part of that. I'm an ass. I know I'm an ass, right? I ran my life based on my will for more than 40 years. It ended me in prison, and it ended me hurting every single person that I came in contact with in one way or another. I figured out pretty seriously that when I do things according to my own will, nothing good happens for me or the people around me. Just kind of how it went. I would actually love a version of the Bible for dummies. You know something? There are versions of the Bible for dummies. I promise you there are. And there's a lot of, you know what, Audra, send me an email and put that in the title. Yeah, the subject. And thank you. In the subject. And I will reach out and tell you some of the stuff that I have seen that are designed for that exact question, right? Because there's trouble with all religious texts, by the way, is that they're usually written a long time ago, right? With the exception of the Satanic Bible. Most of them were written a very long time ago, and they're translated from Aramaic, or they're translated from whatever language it happened to be written in, and that really kind of makes it a more difficult situation. And the better that we can understand it, then as you start to get an understanding, it's fascinating to go back and look at it and try to understand the language that it's written in, because there's things that are fascinating when you start looking at it in the original language, like the number of words for love. We have a word for love, but in the original text of the Bible, there was agape love. There were about 5 different types of love, and agape love you can't have, right? That's the kind of love that God has for you, and it's not the kind of love that you're going to have for somebody else. And it's really unique when you start doing the etymology of this, where you take one word and actually break it all the way down and find out what it is that they're meaning. Because it's the other thing, unfortunately, is that the Bible is the most misquoted book on earth, right? You guys know the old money is the root of all evil? It doesn't say that anywhere in that book. I promise you it doesn't. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is absolutely not evil. You can do amazing things with it. For real, even small amounts of it. $40 ran all of the piping needed for that bathroom to have a shower in it. So those guys who literally struggle with defecating themselves while trying to kick dope can now stand in a shower and kick water on. $40, nothing evil about that. I promise. That's a beautiful thing. Money can do fantastic things in the hands of people that want to do something good with it. Right? It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And having spent a lot of time in prison, people say all the time, 80% of the people in American prisons are in there for dope. No, they're not. They're not. Dope is involved in their case. I robbed banks. I robbed banks because I needed money to buy heroin, right? But the love of money comes back so often, right? It always comes back to cash and the need to get it, right? I hated my life. Heroin made it so that I could feel like I didn't hate my life. And I needed money in order to do that. You know what I hated more than myself? The fence. Fencing. That's the guy that buys the stolen stuff from you. And when the first day you meet him, he says, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. By the time you've known him 3 months, he's offered you 10 cents on the dollar. He knows you're sick. He knows he can get away with whatever. And I couldn't stand him. You remember his name?
Yeah, I do.
Jesse James.
Yeah.
Our fence's name was Jesse James. Man, I didn't like him. Yes, because I wasn't raised religious. Pursued on my own, but I was a young kid in Oklahoma, and they were vicious and kind of mean about it, so it turned me away. Look, people suck. People suck. Now, if you're going to choose happiness on a daily basis, you don't need God to do that. You don't. But you're going to need gratitude, and you're going to need truckloads of it. Personally, I'm not any good at gratitude without a belief in a higher power. Doesn't mean you won't be. But as we start to write in our journals, some people put the gratitude stuff in their journal. I do not. I have a gratitude journal. It runs alongside of it. And that's important for me because I need continuity in my book. When I went back to the journal to see when this change that I started to feel happened, if I had 6 pages of gratitude in there, it would get very confusing for me. When I journal, the top of the page has the date written on it. It has the time written on it because I can see if I'm journaling my morning dump, my info dump at 4:30 in the morning every single day, and I do that for 7 months, then it starts being 4:45. Then it starts being 5. Then it starts being 5:15. Something's going on in my life. I can go back and I can look and go, what the hell happened here? Why did this stop being the most important thing that I did in the morning? What caused this? It's the external hard drive. I go back to it constantly. So if I'm doing something like a gratitude journal, which I do a lot of, I need a separate book for it. It happens to be a book one of you guys gave to me. And gratitude journaling is, to me, going back and reading a gratitude journal is such a beautiful thing to do. There's nothing in there ever where I find there's no answer in there of how am I screwing up. That's not that kind of book. When I go back in there, I'm just reminded that on Thursday, the 15th, the first thing that I was grateful of was the chat. You guys come up in my gratitude journal so often. And I'll tell you something. There's been a paradigm shift in the last month, maybe 3 weeks, of me getting emails like I used to get back in the day, where it says, your chat changed my life. And I said last night, I get way more of those emails than I ever get emails about me and about, you're great at this or whatever. That went away. There was a period of time where people weren't talking about the chat. They were saying really nice stuff about me, but they weren't saying anything about the chat. And you know what? I let that crap get to me. I wasn't talking about these kind of issues. I wasn't talking about making your life better. I was talking about Diddy. And people were saying that, you know what, your coverage of Diddy is so much better than other people's, and vanity is an ugly emotion. And I started feeding into it. And when I started to do that, the chat went, this isn't what I signed up for. One person in particular who was really loving and a person that prays for me constantly and I have much love for, said, I just can't hang out for that stuff. And that ding, 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 ding alarm bell should have gone off, right? It didn't. I'm very human, unfortunately. I had a guy in my life a long time, never pushed, but he studied languages to read the book. He wished to prove it and his own son wrong. Oh, it and his own son wrong. But he became a believer. Your faith reminds me of him. You know, there are so many funny stories like that. One of my favorites was Billy Graham, the televangelist, the guy that owned Hustler magazine. Real reprehensible piece of crap. He was sued by Billy Graham because he made a vicious attack on him where he made some satire in his magazine about Billy Graham and a bunch of women that he had been having sex with, young college girls. It's just bad taste. And Billy Graham and his crew sued. They won. They donated the money to charity, and it got him really pissed off. So he hired a private investigator and said, your budget's unlimited. I want dirt on this guy. Go through his trash, do whatever you got to. Larry Flint, thank you. Go through his trash, do whatever you got to do, and bring back dirt on this dude. And the 6 months or whatever he was hired for didn't work. And he went back and said, man, there's no dirt on this dude. You know what I mean? Like his car is 8 years old. He doesn't really do anything. You know, there's not much dirt here. Larry Flint said, get back and find it. Do whatever you got to do. There's something there. And the dude continued to follow him. And allegedly, this went on for over a year. And then one day, the guy walked into a diner where Billy Graham was eating, and he went and dropped his butt in the booth next to him and said, I want what you got. You know, because I spend my whole life looking at people, and they're all crooked. Everybody's dirty. There's something in everybody's life that we're hiding. Doesn't mean that it's, you know, evil or whatever, but everybody's hiding something, unless you're not. And if you're not, people do want to be more like you. They want what you got. That may be, could there be a better compliment? Honestly, I want what you have. God, I hope to hear that someday. But Cindy, thank you. I really appreciate that. We are all just human. We are. And we're fallible to beat hell, right? I am. I'm not good at this life thing. I mean, I'm getting better at it. Well, I'm not. Sorry. Tommy Boy reference. No, I really do think I'm getting better at this being a human thing. I wish I had another 120, 130 years because I think I might get it down. I really do. But you know what? Just the pursuit of trying to be better. I think that's the answer. I swear I was discussing Billy Graham yesterday. I'm glad nothing bad turned up. No, I mean nothing. That dude was about as clean as he gets. I wouldn't want to be perfect. Couldn't picture what that is. Cindy G, we're not in any danger, sunshine. I promise. I feel like I'm getting to know you, and neither you nor I have to worry about that. Tell you what, though, your honesty is amazingly refreshing. Something that most of the people on this channel bring to the party that you don't see other places. If you go out, and it's good we're all different. You're damn right, Caroline. If you go out and look at the people that are making a lot of money on YouTube these days, I'm sorry, most of them are not doing good stuff. They're not. It's a bit distressing. They got that guy Vitali. He is currently being held in another country in the Philippines. He went over and did the same thing that Johnny Somali did. Took the hat off a cop, put it on, and ran away with it, tried to steal a cop's motorcycle, crashed a car, would run up to women who were eating and just scream at them in what he believed to sound like the Filipino language. These people go and harass folks on live feeds while people throw money at them, right? Literally throw money at them. They have a new thing where if I get a little speaker box and you want to do a super chat, you can pay $50 and then it will come out of the speaker box, whatever you say. So these guys are going to places where kids are, and a guy will put $100 super chat in and scream something obscene at the children. And these guys are banking. There's a bunch of them. And I talked about the alpha males. These are people who have content teaching you how you can be a better human being. They're selling courses on it. And one of them says, mother effer. Every third word refers to himself that way, refers to you that way, and berates his people, even the people paying him. He berates them. These guys all rent their houses. The message from all of these people is, if you have enough stuff, you'll be happy. You need a Ferrari. You need a Lamborghini. You need a Rolex watch, right? Forget Rolexes, right? You need something even more expensive. You need a Richard Mille. You need a Patek Philippe, yeah, a Grand Saunier. Drop 600 grand on a wristwatch and life will be perfect. That's the message. The sad thing is this: these people have massive followings. They have huge audiences. I'd much rather have 46 people in my chat and be telling people that you're never going to find happiness in a wristwatch, and I got a bunch of them. It's not how you're going to get happy, I promise. And you're not going to find happiness in a car. I mean, don't get it messed up. I have owned a lot of really nice cars, and it's more fun to drive a Porsche than it is to drive a Chevy. But I don't own a car now, and I've never been happier. I take cabs everywhere I go, and I've never been happier. I don't worry about a car. I don't worry about insurance. I don't worry about a car payment. None of that. I gave my car to Spanx Calhoun. And I have a horrifically large watch collection, and I love watches. But one of my goals for 2026 is going to be to get my watch collection down to about 11 watches. I am going to go through the 500 plus watches that I have, and I'm going to pick 11 that I can't live without. And I'm going to sell the rest of them. That's a painful thought. But you know what? I don't need that many watches. And it's not like I bought these watches, all of them. I would hunt them down in broken condition, not working, and I would repair them. And they're all gorgeous. They're all beautiful. They're all vintage. I'm wearing, this is you see the dial? That dial is actually made of gold. But this is a watch that was so rare. They had a gold dial that they brushed in circles. It's a 14 karat case, and it's a model Calatrava style, they call it. And this watch is about 10 years older than I am. Mechanical watch, you got to wind it. But I bought this thing toast. The crystal was shattered. It didn't have a band, didn't have a winding crown, didn't work. So I would buy them and I would rebuild them. And watches that I bought for $250, $300 became worth a couple of thousand. I really, really got into it. Funny, I never wanted money. It's a nice family and love in my life. My family just threw me away like trash, very alone. You know something? Yesterday, Audra, when I went to the rehab center, my whole presentation to the fellas there was, if God didn't give you the family that you wanted or the family that you deserved, pick a new one. They say you can't choose your family. Well, they're friggin' wrong. The people that said that are asshats that never actually thought about it or went out there and tried it. I have a family so much larger than anybody on earth. There are people here I absolutely love. I couldn't love them anymore if we had the same blood. I mean that. You can choose your family, and you should. Doesn't sound to me like you got a very good one. Not your fault. That's the lottery, right? It's like being born with a symmetrical face. It's like being born 6 feet tall or 6'2" or 5'3". There are things in this life you have zero control over. That's the 5%. The 95% is how you deal with it. What you need to do is journal your little tush off so that we get to a point where you can come to grips with the fact that that part of life you lost the lottery on. You have to become comfortable enough with that fact that you can walk with it almost hand in hand. Yes, I heard that and completely felt connected to the man you spoke about. Audra, I hope that you are going to get to a point where you feel very connected to the people here, because, and I have watched this happen so many times, the people in the chat will end up direct messaging each other this and that. We had a gentleman on the lifeboat who passed away. And when he did, he called me right before he died, and he knew it was coming. He was waiting on a transplant. And I said, how you doing today, bud? And he said, well, I have my family here. And I said, oh, your son's made it? And he said, no. And he listed off 2 women from the lifeboat who had gone out and were in the hospital with him, his family. His sons were on the way. But you can choose your family. I now live in a country where I only have a brother. The rest of my family lives in North America. And to be really honest with you, I don't see myself going back there a lot. I had this conversation with my family before I left. I was leaving. I'm becoming Ecuadorian, right? This is a part of what I am doing. This is where I am going to be. But I am going to create a family here. I've already got at least one brother and Mac, the guy I was talking about. I got to learn his language because we're going to be a little bit closer that way. But I met a man here, and he's a minister. And we've had conversations. And I'll tell you something. I've never had a very close friend who was a minister for the same reason that someone said earlier. Well, they tend to be a little judgy, don't they? And with my life, hanging out with people that are going to judge me is probably not a great idea because there's so much you can judge me for. This cat's one of the least judgmental people I've ever met. I absolutely love him. I really do. He's a brother. And he's going to be a huge part of the rest of my life. And fortunately, he's also the translator for me when I go to the rehab center. And just an amazing human being. You can absolutely pick your family. And if I were you, I would get on that. Do I have a website for the watch business? You know what, Barbara Waite? I did. But when I shut it down, when it was time to move, I am going to, how many journals have I got? Do you mean ones that are already filled with stuff? Good God, I don't know. 80? 100? It might be more than that. I have no idea. It's got to be more than that. I probably have 100 just from prison. I have a lot of journals. I have 10 years worth. And I journal on average, like an average journal day is 2 pages a day. But there have been times where I will bust through 60 pages. If I'm working through one thing, especially when I was in prison, there were times I would journal for hours. I have, I have so many. But at any given time, I have my gratitude journal. I have my regular journal that I write in every day. And then I have a lifeboat journal. And the lifeboat journal is where I talk just about the channel, just about people that I'm praying for by name. Johnny says I'm kind of fanatical about it. I also have a travel. I have a travel one, which is a small one that was given to me by Pajama Pixie, if you guys remember her. She made a leather little travel book that I carry with me everywhere I go. Oh, and then I have a dream journal that has an Alice in Wonderland thing on the outside of it that was also given to me by someone on the lifeboat. Tony Suter gave me that one. And that one I keep for dreaming. That's my dream. Yeah, I have way too many. I am fanatical about it. Barbara Waite, I will give everybody a place where they can go and look at all the watches. If you guys are interested in that, I can do that. I just have to reorganize it. All the photos are already taken. I have a ridiculously large collection. I really do. But that's what I did for a living. I had a business where I bought and sold watches. Actually made a very, very decent living doing it. The dream journal sounds like the perfect one. It's dream journals work really, really well for me. It really does. And dream journaling is different. Like I don't remember my dreams in the moment. That's very rare for me. So when I get up in the morning and I do the info dump, very often I will just copy down stuff from the info dump into the dream journal or vice versa. Because the things that I write down first thing in the morning when I wake up, I might write down, great cat, the things that don't seem to make any sense that just kind of come out in a stream of conscious. But when I read them later in the day, I'll go, oh man, I remember the dream from last night. By the way, there might not even be a great cat in it, but it will instantly trigger my mind and I'll be right back to where the dream was. And then it is the perfect cover for me. And she actually gave me 2 of them. They both have Alice in Wonderland on them. She also gave me some Alice in Wonderland art. Do you know something, people? No joke. I was this close to buying an Alice in Wonderland print for the house. Johnny Scoville, thankfully, saved me from making this absolutely heinous mistake. Now that you don't do drugs, you don't drink, you don't do anything like that, you think, I'm not in danger of doing anything stupid, spending a whole lot of money, blowing a fortune on drugs. I almost bought the Pool of Tears, Alice in Wonderland by Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali would do the original and then there would be like 1,000 of them and it's got his thumbprint on the back and blood and all of that stuff. it's official and it's certified and all that. And they're expensive. It was over 20 grand. And I was going to buy this thing. I really was. I was so close. And Johnny did the hell's the matter with you? And that didn't work. I was still getting ready to do it. And this was pretty recently, actually. And he said to me, do you have any idea what $20,000 could do to a rehab center in Ecuador? And that was about a wrap. That was about the end of that. I would feel really stupid looking at that thing hanging in my living room, realizing that I probably could have put 60 guys full-time into that. I could have built enough to put 60 guys in. Kimberly says, I wake up several times a night. If I don't write down what I dreamt in between, I won't remember it at all. That's Kimberly, you're spot on. That is how, if you take a course where they're studying your dreams, where they're teaching you how to study your dreams, or if you sign up for a dream study, that's what they do. When you wake up in the middle of the evening, they want you to write down everything that's happening directly between it. Drop the mic, says Valerie. Johnny has a lot of drop the mic moments, for real. Big brothers need things in our lives. I have adopted ones. Good. Any of you that are that don't have a big brother and need one, I know where you could probably find two. People, you can absolutely choose your family, and you could do a hell of a lot worse than finding your family on this channel. And I'm not patting my own back, but this chat, I'll put this chat up against anybody anywhere. Nobody has a chat like the Love Boat. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Do me a favor, folks. Please do me a favor. There is a tide. Johnny's going to be live in 1 hour. Don't miss that, because he's going to be talking about sleep paralysis and sleep paralysis dreams. It's going to be very, very interesting stuff. There is a tide turning in this channel. Really fantastic things are happening. Let me check my real quick so that I don't misquote this. I have lost 225 subs in the last week. Never been happier about it. The people that are leaving don't see the vision of what's going on here, and that's great. I hope they find something that works for them. But people are seeing.
509.
Johnny has lost 509. People are seeing the vision of what's happening between the two channels. We need all of you to support these channels. I don't want money. I'm not asking for that. Put the thumbs up. Or if you don't think we did a good job, but interact. Make sure that you give this thing a rating. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't. Tell somebody about the channel. And just as importantly, if you've got time or this spoke to you, leave a comment, please. It will actually help propel us back into some deep waters. There was a time when doing the content that I'm doing right now had about 250 people in the chat. And then we took a whole heck of a lot of slings and arrows. I'm glad it happened. I swear to God I am. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And it sure as heck purged a lot of people off of this boat that probably shouldn't have been here. But I would like to save more people in this forum, because looking at what happens at the rehab center makes me want to get back to doing what I started this channel to do. So do me a favor and do a little engagement. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, do whatever you do. You know what? Don't feel bad about this. I'm not joking. There was a time where a subscriber count dropping used to make me feel less than. To me, this is pruning. And if you know anything about a tree, it doesn't bear fruit. It will literally choke itself out. You'll see no fruit if you don't cut it back, right? And if you've ever seen it done well, you will look and go, good God, they killed that thing. They killed that tree. What are they doing? And the next year, it will bear the most beautiful fruit you've ever seen. By the way, there's a lot of good biblical stuff about this too. But pruning is a beautiful thing. It needs to happen, and it's been happening here. Nobody that is leaving this channel is anything like the people that are listening to me right now. You get it? The people that are leaving this channel are people that want to hear me talk about Sean Diddy Combs 20 hours a day for the rest of my life, or talk about the most reprehensible people on earth because they find that fascinating. If I'm talking about Epstein because it is affecting people that I care about, the need for justice sometimes will absolutely start to work its way in on our happiness. So we will address issues like that. But I sure as hell am not going to turn this channel into something that I didn't design it to be. It made me unhappy, and it made me less than a good person. pretty happy with where I'm at right now. Audra in Denver, you're a little jealous of my older brother. He's out for rent, and I'm not kidding, not being funny. You need an older brother, I know exactly where to find the couple of them. You can choose your family, people. If you didn't get the one that you want, fix it. I promise you can. I stepped away for a time, but I feel this is the genuine Tommy, and this is upliftment. Thank you, Renee Rainbow. I'm glad you're here. You know what? I don't blame anybody that stepped away for a while. Unfortunately, I did too. I just kept making videos the whole time I stepped away. All right, people, between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. And you know what? Audra says, I'll pay. You won't have to. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place. I promise you. I am going to be back tonight. We'll be doing a very positive message. You're going to want to be there. Don't miss it. You'll have to hear about it from somebody else. That would suck. And don't miss Johnny Scoville. I'm telling you, he's going to be talking about a very interesting subject matter. Again, between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. I am Tommy. This is The Love Boat. Love you guys. See you on the next one.